All right, welcome back to the Curran Events Podcast. As I was telling Jordan here, I haven't done this in years. We've been talking sports and biz, and usually we've been doing it on our IG. We had a podcast, it was 2 years ago. We had a couple of kids, got our IG and Twitter hacked, got rid of the pod, but we're back, baby. And first guest, I wanted it to be you, Jordan. Tim and I talked about a lot of the stuff that you're talking about and thought this would be great. Jordan, I'll let you get into kind of your background here, but used to work in marketing at Nike, now the owner of Perseus Creative, Jordan Rogers, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Really,
Thanks.
Really just gentlemen on this evening.
Indeed.
All right,
yes.
so talk to us a little bit about, what you did at Nike and then now what you're doing here on your own.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me. At Nike, I basically chased this dream job. I started out as an Econ. Econs are brand evangelists or tech reps who go around training retail employees on the history and heritage of the brand at Nike and on the latest innovation that Nike's releasing. So they'll teach you about Flyknit or why a shoe is lighter, faster, amazing. And then we also supported brand events across the country. So you would go to the NBA All-Star game, or like this weekend, there will probably be some Econs at the Final Four, showing off cool Nike products at whatever events. There were some probably at the Super Bowl. So anyway, just an absolute dream job. I spent 4 years chasing that. I have a crazy backstory, which we can talk about if we want. But anyway, started as the Econ and then eventually worked through brand marketing. So went into American football because that was kind of the main thing down here in Dallas, Texas. And eventually then got pulled up to do, I was a brand manager of field sports in the Central Territory. They pulled me up to North America to be the brand manager of Nike football in North America. Then I was a brand director for Nike women's for a couple of years. And then I finished my time at Nike basketball as a brand director for North American Nike basketball.
And then you were like, I'm out. But
Yeah.
why? What made you want to start your own thing?
Yeah. So ironically, I had often told people, they'd ask me how I had, relative good success at Nike. And I would always honestly tell them, ironically, at a global multinational company, that I was entrepreneurial. So a lot of my favorite projects that I did at Nike and the cool ones that are in my videos or all the photos are often not projects that anyone asked me to do. I sort of pitched someone on a crazy idea or made something up and was pretty entrepreneurial and kind of had to do that. I started out in the territory down here in Dallas, Texas. There are only a few people in the office here, and the home, office is up in Beaverton, Oregon. So you just kind of make stuff happen if you want anything to happen. So I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit. I did 10 years at the company. The primary reason that I left is that I need to live in Dallas, Texas to better serve my wife and my children. I want them to grow up with their nieces and nephews. All of our family lives here in Dallas. So that's the primary reason.
Gotcha.
Second, I had done 10 years and I'd done way more than I ever possibly could have imagined. I mean, I have a crazy backstory. I recovered from heroin addiction after a year of incarceration 20 years ago. So to get to do anything at Nike was amazing, but then to work with the level of athletes I worked with, to do the Beaverton thing, I traveled to Europe, traveled all over the country. I got national television commercials. I mean, there was really just nothing else that I wanted to do, but I did have some deep desires to make some stuff on my own. And so that's kind of the driving factor in starting my own business.
We get it. So we started our first business, Tim came to me in 2011, I think it was the January of 11 or something like that. Maybe you already started, but I jumped to our first biz. So that's what, 12 years. I was 26, 7, and you were whatever, a year younger. So we've been in it for a minute. Wow. We didn't have success other places. Before we started this, we were just let's start something. Actually, Tim was like, let's start something. And I was like, cool, I guess I'm on board and we'll figure this stuff out.
Was it in space?
Good. What's that?
Was it in the same space, like athlete marketing, which I'll do now?
Not really ish, but so it was helping high school athletes play in college. So we did combine camps and it was that sort of thing. So not like this at all.
Yeah, no. We've always kind of been in the sports business world, tech, media, whatever you name it, for the last 10, 12 years or so, though.
Yeah, cool.
So, and how it kind of, I guess we can kind of go in our background a little bit, how we got to that. And then on the new podcast, I guess the 8 people that are going to listen to this will not know our full background. But so we had done that. We moved out to LA, and as we built out this app, and we had thousands of people on it. But we'd go like through these combine camps, and then we'd be like, well, they'd come to us and be like, hey, I want to get faster. How can I get faster? Can you help me? And we're like, all right. So we started bringing out like local trainers to like do the warm up and then build that relationship. And then, well, mom wants to do this thing, or little sister wants to do this thing. How can we make this like fitness vibe go? And that's when Tim had gone out to LA and NorCal and New York and had some business meetings about what we were doing. It was more like fitness based at this point. And he was like, dude, we need to move to LA. And so he came out here. I followed a year later because it just fit like fitness and tech. And then we started doing like free videos for people around in our area here to get them to put their content on our app. And then they'd be like, hey, can you do a video for me in this company? And then we started working for brands. And then, so although we had thousands of views on the app, we've immediately went to the brand side because more money, I guess, like it was better business. Yeah. And so we were on the brand side. How we got into the athlete side is a lot of our stuff, again, was fitness based. So tons of correlation with athletes, and we'd work with athletes and be like, holy shit, like, what are they doing? Their IG's terrible. Or if they start a YouTube channel, or like, could they drop some merch? Or like, if they'd asked for 5K instead of 1,500, they would have got it. And so that's when we shifted a handful of years ago to work with athletes, obviously at the time pro, and then now in the college and pro space is where we do our little dance thing here.
Yeah, cool.
But and like you've worked with however many dozens, hundreds of athletes, but a lot of athletes still don't understand that side of the biz, or they do when they're like 35 and they're like, oh shit, this is over. What do I do next? Kind of thing.
Not even 35, we're seeing now like college is over, and like 23, 24, 25, and they're like, oh, college is over. Now what do I do? I'm not going to make it to the next level.
Yeah. Well, you're right. And you guys are, football guys, or Pat, you played football.
We both did.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. So you guys know it more than whenever. And I always try to say, when I go to these colleges, like, hey, I'm not the doom and gloom guy. I'm not here to tell you that your career is only 2.8 years and only 2% of y'all are going to make it to the league, and that you can't post anything on social, and that you need to scrub your Twitter feed. Like anything you tweet can kill your career. I'm not that guy. There's plenty of people in the space to like do that. But I'm here to gas you up, to talk about the power of the internet, to talk about the power of content, to talk about like how amazing the opportunity could be in this short window that you have. I'm here for y'all. Like, I know y'all, we're all singing the same tune here, but it's like, hey, we're here to see you win, and we want to, but you're going to have to do a couple of really strategic, well thought out things if you want to make this be able to go and expand, while you have time, while you have the shine, not when your career's over and you're retired and nobody cares.
Yeah. And like you and I talk in the DMs all the time about stuff like this, or we'll see something, be like, oh my God, what is this? But I know it drives us. But it's, I coached too. So I played and coached, and I coached lower level stuff, D2, D3. But we've worked with, hundreds of athletes in some capacity at this point too. It's very hard in the moment to see the future. Like everybody, like you walk in and, I've done events where I've spoken to, like, I went and spoke to Maryland's football team, and I spoke to Florida State's women's basketball team and the entire Tulane athletic department. And every single person in that room thinks they're pro athletes. Yeah. Not, like Maryland is really good football, and there's a handful of those guys that are going to make a living playing football. Right. Yeah. But now they've got this huge opportunity, and we're seeing, there are some outliers that do really well in this NIL stuff, obviously. Right. But there's still a lag in like what's a great creator and what a lot of athletes do, and how much easier it would be for these athletes to just put out like some decent type content and build long-term businesses around it.
Well, Pat, I quote you all the time and saying here in the NIL space, there are like great creators who may not be great athletes, and they can build a following. And then there are like great athletes who build a following just by the fact that they're great athletes. And the magic sauce is trying to like bridge the gap here. And I love that description of kind of the opportunities that exist in NIL. And then I think, hey, if you're in the middle, you can also gravitate towards one or the other. But by making a few of those sound, strategic improvements, they could do wonders for themselves. I mean, it really goes beyond athletes for sure. I'm trying to teach to all kinds of people. And I've been the beneficiary of it. I think like building an Instagram following, having a profile outside of my job. And so, it's anyway, we believe very deeply in these opportunities for these athletes, and we just want to see them win.
Well, so I'll say was one, just by your first reaction there, Jordan, when Pat was talking about that, we should have a mega cast / Manning cast for just revealing athlete brand social posts. And it's just like us reacting to like what these are. I think that'd be interesting content. Yeah. But question for you is from when Pat was saying like the brand side of thing, right? We understood the brand side. Your Nike experience though, right? I'm sure you saw a lot of this, like, hey, we've got this amazing thought, idea, campaign that we just drummed up internally. We're going to bring in X athlete and X happens. That probably wasn't exactly how you envisioned. Tell us about an experience through there. Like, you don't have to obviously list the athlete, but like the frustrations and things that you saw from the brand side of things.
Where do I start? Here was one of the things that I figured out. And I don't think that athletes understand this enough. One of my biggest frustrations, and all of our Pat and I's DMs are, and Pat, I think you actually do a great job of kind of, being kind to I haven't figured out a good way to like showcase their work and not completely thrash the athlete because I don't want to be, I blame the brand a lot of the times. And actually working internally at Nike, like I saw how few people actually understood social media. Like you can be one of the smartest marketers in the world. You could have the MBA from Stanford. You could do all that and you still know nothing about social media. And so I think a lot of these brands, I'll say like Nike and legacy brands, like big brands, Nike is built on 60-second television ad spots and billboards. And they really are not built on social media. Now, granted, they're so much more innovative than most companies in terms of social media. So don't get me wrong, but internally, we would always be frustrated. The people who understood, especially as marketers, we're always trying to be on the cutting edge, and we always felt like we were behind. But my biggest beef is with a lot of these brands who they're just not setting these athletes up to win, and so they're like, I don't know what the hell they're doing, but are they like paying an agency? Like Pat and I'm sorry, I'm going to go on record here as Bose. Like, what the fuck are y'all doing? I'm sorry, excuse my language, but like, there was a kid who like worked for Bose and asked me what I thought of like their athlete stuff. And I was like, I think it's an abomination. Like I've seen one good one, which is the Michigan quarterback who had something that was authentic to him. He meditates before games under the field goal, and his Bose one, and he has some videographer who I've DM'd with, who is amazing, who shot this beautiful campaign with him. Again, to me, like they're basically kind of replicating Beats campaign from like 5 years ago. The like, here we want one. And they did some really cool ones. But like, why would you just toss this over the fence and say, hey, athlete, film this on your iPhone, and then we'll throw a little Bose thing on the end? Like, I just don't understand it. So to answer your question, Tim, like, I saw internally, the people under the brands don't understand marketing. And I think if you're a 19-year-old athlete, you assume that if someone is at Bose, they understand marketing. You also assume that if they work at a marketing agency, they understand marketing. Well, guess what? You can actually understand strategic marketing and not understand social media. And so it just drives me a little crazy. I think the brands need to be better and hold athletes' hands. The agencies need to come alongside them or start identifying who are the content creators around these athletes. Because my job when I was managing athletes, guess what? I wasn't going to him to try to get him to take pictures of his cleats. I was going to the team photographer and aligning with him, paying him or hooking him up with sneakers to get me good shots of the cleats and the athlete in the cleats. So I think there's a lot more creative ways that brands internally and agencies need to set these athletes up for success. Because frankly, I don't expect these athletes to know how to shoot good social content. but we can always try to teach them. And in the same process, the brands and the agencies need to be better.
Yeah. And it goes brand agency that works with the athlete. So there's 4 entities within it, so it's the Bose is like, and for those who've not seen the Bose ones, it's like an athlete who is pretending like the camera's not there. It's very awkward. It's trying to be like you said, similar to that campaign, but it's not intense. It feels awkward from the jump. And the difference between us, you're 40-ish, like we're all 40-ish here, right? Is those 18 to 22-year-olds are 1,000 times cooler than us. And they see that. Like, how are they like, this is cool.
Yeah,
I'm going to drop it.
Yeah.
And most of them don't give a damn because it's like, I made 5K. I made a bag, 5K.
You got the bag. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But like, so in a similar instance, like, we just had one of our athletes had a great Sweet 16, and we were working with a company. They doubled down, wanted to do something extra. They sent over some creative. The creative we've seen on other athletes' things, and I was like, I go to the athlete, hey, we're not doing it exactly like this. Here's what is because like part of it, I don't want to get into descriptors about these things. See, one thing I'll say too, like I'm kind of running into a problem where there is a fine line to talk about like what's good, what's not bad, or what's good, what's not good, what's really bad, and like talking about the athlete and not getting them pissed off. But then also like I have like people who work at agencies, and it's like, so there's a fine line I got to work when I speak publicly on things. But so let's find your specific tie-in to this creative, and then let's work it out. And then it was like, all right, let's get these shots. Here's the voiceover. Let's put it together in this way. And this, I don't think you've gotten that back yet today, Tim, but it'll be something that comes out like tomorrow. But it will be much better, feel more authentic to them. It is still a brand tie-in, but it's in a way that they would do it, and so often like you'll see it and it'll be like, what's up guys, it's Pat back, and you're like, yo, you don't do that ever on your videos.
Yeah.
I know you're doing that. We had another one of our athletes, and the athlete had the setup of the brand stuff like this when they sent over the first video, and I was like, we know it's an ad off the jump. Why don't we? I love the voiceover. Let's just take that a voiceover, make it more of a day in the life. We'll tie in the company a couple times here, and it'll fit and be more authentic and work better. And she was like, great idea. Let's do that. So like the creative that's set doesn't mean you have to do that. At the end of the day, everybody wants this to go well.
Yes.
If you got something that fits and can go well, they're usually down.
Well, and that's the hard part. I think when you're 19 years old, you don't understand that you can push back a little bit. I didn't understand for the first several years of my career. I didn't understand the relationship. Like I got a history degree. I told you, I'm like, I wasn't like set up with marketing internships. So when I joined Nike conference rooms, it was just like, oh, I don't know, if someone says something, it's gospel, you just roll with it. And so I think it took me a long time to figure out like, oh, wait, I actually know what I'm talking about here. And or you don't even have to be confrontational. You just go, hey, what if I did it like this? Would that work? And a lot of times I find people are like, oh yeah, that's great. And so I think the incredible skill of a marketer, of an agency is so my job in brand marketing, so in brand, this is from a brand person. And so if it sounds like egocentric, trust your instincts, but we sort of sat in the middle of the spoke. That's how everybody described it. And then we would brief all the different functions. So we would brief PR, we would brief our advertising, we would brief social media, we would brief the creative team. And so there becomes this art over time of understanding how to write a brief. And it's basically, for those who don't know, like a brief is basically the overview of a project. And it's saying like, hey, here's the ultimate outcome of what we're trying to get from this campaign or from this piece of creative. And then you give your sort of, these are the things that are non-negotiable. We have to show, if it's a drink, like we need to show the drink, the label needs to be legible. You can't show any, competitors, but and then we're trying to embody this idea of whatever, just do it or overcome barriers or whatever it might be. What we think that this would be great. Here's a couple thought starters, but what do you think? And I just don't think there's enough of that like back and forth. People are always in a hurry. They needed it yesterday, like, all that kind of stuff. And then so you end up with something mediocre, and that's disappointing for the brand and for the athlete.
Yeah, I don't think there's been one time where we've come back to a brand or agency and said, what do you think about this? Or because in general, like you said, the briefs are, here's your do's, don'ts, guidelines, include this. Here's the laws you have to stay within. But in general, here's some stuff you want to do. But every time we come back to them, I'm pretty confident every single time they've said, cool, we like this, or yeah, we're open to that.
Yeah, I don't remember any times, but yeah, they're always open. They want it to do well.
Yeah.
Period. So like they don't, but like, I don't expect, like I always say when I talk about on my IG, is like I don't blame the 18 to 22-year-old. I blame their agency. And I blamed this massive agency that doesn't give a shit about these little things that affects their bottom line of the athlete and their cut of it too. So, it does, but they don't care about a couple $1,000.
Yep.
If the agency doesn't work with the athlete to do these things, the athlete most of the time doesn't care. Like I posted one on my story the other day, and it was like the Memphis Collective, and it was on camera, and I was like, it was as simple. I don't know if you saw this. Did you see this, Tim?
No, but I can already see.
He was like, hey, Tim, I think we should get people to come donate at this baseball thing. Like as like basic. And then the other guy came on. He was like, you're right. They should come to this game. It was as bad as I've ever seen something. It was that simple. And it was like, the really cool, he's a quarterback on the team. Like the really cool 22-year-old was like, all right, okay. Like, but doesn't feel good. The funniest thing I would see is when people have the comments off on an ad. And it's like, the brand's pissed. They're trying to get a hold of somebody to get the comments back on, but the kid feels stupid about it. That's why they did it. Or they don't want the comments of like, go get paid, or like corn, or laughing emojis.
Yep.
Like, if you don't feel good about it, don't do it. I mean, if it's $1 million, I'd probably do it too. But most of the time it's not those kind of things, right? It's like a few bucks here and there to do it in a corny way.
It's really hard. I mean, I think we're all very sympathetic with athletes in the position they're in. I feel like I've gotten a little bit of window in this. I built an Instagram following years ago. And so I've done some branded partnerships, and I live here in Texas, right? There's not that many like creators in Dallas who are in the space that I've been in at different times. And so every year around Cinco de Mayo, the Dos Equisas of the world, the whatever, Bud Light Lime, whoever comes around, kind of in my DMs or asking, or an agency will approach me and they'll offer, I don't know, a few $1,000 or something to talk about Dos Equis. Well, guess what? I just told you I've been in recovery for 20 years. Most of the people who follow me have followed some of my inspirational moments around recovery. So like their authentic connection to me is through something like recovery. If all of a sudden, and a lot of times these people aren't saying you have to, like, it's promoting the Dos Equis party or something. And so, but for me, that's just like, it's just a little too close. And I could sacrifice that short-term gain to get the bag, but I'm going to lose credibility with all the people who've like built trust with me over time. And so that's the thing that we're trying to help athletes understand.
Totally. And it's not always easy, but like, and the problem too is a lot of people like when you work with a collective, I don't know if I've seen anything that's come from a collective to an athlete that looks good. And if you got an example of one good thing, I'd love to hear it. And then, again, a lot of times agencies don't give a shit. And like, when you're talking about the Bose stuff, we're talking about the best athletes in the country. Yes. These aren't like whatever people.
Yeah.
And I don't know what numbers look like. I've got a feeling that's like a 5K, 10K max deal.
Yeah, agreed. Do we have any idea who the agency is? I've asked around.
I do know. I don't want to.
Oh, you do know? Okay.
Drop it in the chat. Drop it in the chat.
I also, like, these are, like you said, these are big time athletes. Like they all, I don't know who they specifically rep or work with. Like they all work with people.
Oh yeah, that's right. You've told me this.
That's like even worse.
That's terrible.
That's right? Even worse.
If anybody should understand social, it's them. And they preach this stuff all the time. So anyway,
you would think so. Right?
Okay, I'll give you. I'll give you one example of good content for a collective. Division Street.
Okay.
Oregon collective, because it's a lot of Nike people and they understand, brand. And
Sure.
so I'm a huge fanboy of them. And, I'm trying to work with a couple of collectives to try to help do some content and try to help guide, but you do have to guide pretty heavily. And I'm sympathetic. That's one of the big realizations that I've had in NIL, which has been really interesting. As we discussed, I didn't go the marketing agent route to start. I, wanted to try to do more of these workshops and to teach about branding and to try to reach a majority of athletes and not the, single ones. But what I realized is like, I'm talking to people, the gatekeepers to, me being able to teach things about brand and marketing often have no concept of what brand and marketing is and personal branding, right? And so the open doorses of the world and the influencers of the world say that they are teaching or offering personal branding in some way. And that's not exactly my experience of what I've seen. They're a really useful tool that helps people build a brand. And then, of course, you have the other side, which in all the marketing speak, they say, we're going to build your brand through our pretty photos and videos and our department. And I'm like, pretty photos and videos are not a personal brand. Those are tools that can help you build a brand over time, but that's not what this is. And so that's been sort of one of the maddening things for me is a lot of people who have rushed into this space don't really understand branding, marketing. They understand the traditional college landscape, which is like selling sponsorships on stadium signage and like car dealers and stuff like that. And so there's going to take some time to catch up to try to teach people about like how to build athletes, brands, and legacy and finding those right partnerships so that they can be elevated and aspirational over the long term.
Yeah. And like I guess when NIL was opening up, that was our plan. Let's go speak to universities, teams about how to build a brand. Like, you've got this crazy opportunity coming ahead of you here. This was like, whenever, I think it was April of 2020 when Florida officially passed the law, and we were like, let's go. And what did we talk to? 75 different staffs and stuff, Tim? And some of those were like actual like idea sessions. Some of them were like just pitches. And a lot of them, like you said, were like, what? Yeah. And
we're like, no. A lot of the responses was, we're just going to sit back and wait to see what happens with this whole NIL thing.
Got that too. Yeah. And that's more of when we talk to athletic departments, a lot of those people are like, we're going to wait and see. When we talk to the staffs and, we're basketball, football, those staffs were like, how does this help in recruiting? And that was our key point. Like, this is going to help a ton. And now it's turned into just like, how do we get collective money into build salaries for our athletes? And I'm for that too, by the way. But how can we build a business for this 19-year-old who should have a business and thinks they're going to the league, but they're probably not. But yeah, I mean, there's that gap. We've got huge opportunity. We've got athlete who has a social channel and they just post the photos and videos, like you said, sometimes. And there's not the conscious building of an opportunity for 99.9% of athletes. Not only just, like I've gotten on like Twitter combos with people before and they're like, that's not true, that's this, or people are doing it. And it's like, yeah. There are some people who are doing a great job as content creators. As my computer starts to die here. But that's like 1% of people. And we have a couple of people that will have sustainable business for the next 25 years if they want to through all this stuff.
Well, I think the disappointing thing for me has been that huge pendulum shift where it was like, it started out and everybody panicked and was like, oh, you got to build a brand. And then what I've watched I came in 9 months into NIL. And I think everybody panicked and rushed and brought in, I don't know, they paid for all kinds of services. Yeah. And then I kind of came in and I see this glazed eyes in a lot of the administrators. And to be clear, I'm so sympathetic. I cannot imagine working inside of college athletics right now. There's a reason I'm not inside college athletics, and then I feel like then everybody was like, oh, threw their hands up. Collectives are just going to handle this. We're not going to do anything. Like, just the collectives are going to pay them. Fine. That's what it is. And it's like, well, no, it intersects the middle. Like, get your bag. Yes, like I'm here for it. Again, yes and amen. Pay the players. The brands cannot pay them their market worth. That's what the collectives are there for, to try to get close to what their market value is.
Yeah.
But in that process, if you're setting up these collectives to be something that they can promote, let's actually make it something that elevates their brand, that actually makes content that is worthy, that's aspirational, that benefits the collective and the athlete, so that you can both win.
Totally. And you'll make more money if you're better at this stuff too, by the way.
Yes.
Like, you spend more, you make money, you make more, you now have the ability to recruit, like talk about that in recruiting too. So it benefits everyone. It helps the athlete, helps the team, helps the collective. All those things matter. What I'm surprised about is we're not hearing constant like social growth. This person was our athlete of the month. They grew 28%. Why aren't teams doing that? I think I saw one team, I remember I quote tweeted it. This is probably, I don't know, months and months ago. One team doing something about that. And then somebody else said Michigan State had done something. I can't remember the team right now, but I would be
South Carolina women's basketball and their social growth?
No, but I saw that. And we talked about that on Sports Business too. And that was great, but I mean individual. Like, what did Jordan Rogers grow this month? What was his engagement rates? Highlighting like you specifically.
Yes,
now, the overall should be another piece of it too, but like, hey, this is a big deal. And then like, that's when we started talking to teams in 2020, we're like, all right, your athletes cannot make money today, but you can be showing like, here's the growth of our athletes. They went from 3,000 to 22,000. That person went from X to Y. Like, these are selling points, I would think. And damn sure when you recruit my kids, like, I want to know this stuff too. And
it would probably in high school houses these days, it would probably be a top 5 thing to use in recruiting, I would imagine, to the athletes specifically, and probably a lot of parents around that. But like, how are you going to help my son or daughter grow? Well, here's what we've done. Like, they're all growing 100% month over month, like on their own social following. I would imagine it's high up there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and I was just having this discussion with somebody yesterday. I think college sports social media teams have room for innovation. They're still catching up. So the first time I almost left Nike was I was working at Nike football a lot. I was working with these big time Division I programs. And I saw the opportunity. To me, I always give Clemson credit. I think Clemson sort of paved the way for like innovative social media. And there's some really smart guys who've been over there. I'm buddies with a lot of them now. And then I think like, so I wanted to leave and start an agency to basically go teach college athletic programs how to fish, basically. Or of course, then you could pay a premium and you could outsource all your digital and social content. But I think they've all caught up. And I did a piece on this earlier this year on TCU. And I think the Hypnotoad is one of the freshest, coolest, and their win assets. I'm not sure that I would put I wouldn't put udders on the opposing coach and make fun of the opposing coach, but like their whole like 90s retro weird vibe is a really fun, fresh take on social media for a college program. And I think these college programs have got to innovate. They basically now have all these kids who are, beautiful filmmakers and making movie trailers every week, but that's not the new, like that's the old wave. The new wave is going to be, how do you help your athletes build their profile, like you said, their social growth, but also like pull the curtain back a little bit and help people get to know them so that they can build a rapport with that athlete over time so that they can grow, their brand can grow. And then of course, everybody grows that way, the team, the account, and everybody, the fans love the program more, they love the athlete more, and everybody wins.
And that's the social growth, right? Like when I get to know the person, I really care about the person, not like if they get hurt, it changes. If if they're not on the field or once they're gone, like that's still there. We still love you. When you go to a school, people love you because that uniform.
Yeah.
But if they can love you for you and want to support you, the person, that becomes a business opportunity, not just like, once I get rid of this, I'm done. And like, yeah, a lot of places there's still a support and they're like alumni and this, but it ain't like that. But like, if you can really build this relationship while you're here, it can be so big time for you.
Totally. I mean, huge opportunity. I'm sorry doing this.
Good. You're good. Well, we talked NIL for 30 minutes or some shit. Let's transition, and it kind of ties into it. I think my favorite thing I saw around the tournament was this Kansas State story, and then I saw you posted about the Lil Baby growth.
Yeah.
So basically, if you don't know what happened, the people that didn't see it, it was every pregame, I think the entire tournament, Kansas State, and they made it to the Elite Eight, would what's the name of the song? I'm missing it right now.
Low Down
by Lil Baby. Was playing it pregame, and the whole team's in there and they're clapping together, and coach is doing his little thing, dancing, and went, viral in this space, millions upon millions of views. And this 2-year-old song jumps into the top 15 of songs listened to because of this. And that's totally ties into this NI on this potential power opportunity that they have.
Yeah.
I guess this, obviously, this is a viral moment. This is different, but I thought that was really cool how that happened.
Yeah.
Authentic.
It was my favorite thing of March Madness this year. I'm not like such I don't fill out a bracket, all that. A lot of people love this tournament. I think it's good, but I live for these kind of culture meets sport moments. Like that's kind of what Nike's built on. That's what Nike's special sauce is. Nike can be authentic to the athlete, but what took Nike to new heights was like Mars Blackman, and like you have Michael Jordan, who like can make you feel like you can fly, but you don't really have that unless you have Spike Lee telling people that like it's got to be the shoes, and so like that's what makes these moments so incredible. So for me, that Lil Baby moment of like these guys, I mean, to me, it was like so good. You have a coach who's fun, who's like jamming out with the players. All the players are into it. These things are going viral. I don't know what their social media team was doing, because I couldn't even find that clip on their account. I think it was their assistant coach, Coach Ream, who was doing it. But what I desperately wanted, and I think this is a side rant for me. I thought every program, Duke basketball did this. They said, we're hiring former Nike executive Rachel Baker to come help our program. I thought, quite frankly, for my own business, I thought every program would be like, they see the PR headline for recruiting and would say, we want a former Nike executive to help us. They don't quite see that yet, but that's what you need for moments like this. You need someone who understands like culture plus sport and how to make these things really go off like a rocket ship. And so if I were them, I would be working in the background, trying everything possible to get Lil Baby courtside for that team in New York. They were in freaking New York, of all places. Like, it's not like they were in Wichita, Kansas. Like, It's in New York. And even if you don't get him there, you do the creative so that the internet can do its work. You go, hey, Lil Baby, you've been powering this journey. We got a seat for you. And then all the people, the fans, everyone is commenting. They're adding Lil Baby. They're like getting in. And that's what like makes these moments grow like a rocket ship. It really, I was trying to think of this, maybe y'all know one better, but the last time I remember college sports intersecting with culture like that is Drake and Johnny Manziel and like Draft Day. I mean, that's the last time I really remember like hip hop plus college athletics. And then of course, Drake intersects with Kentucky and all that, but
Drake kind of hovers because he gets the game too.
Yeah,
he does.
And there's been some like Dion had some guys, Coach Prime at Jackson State had some guys walk out with him, like what. I can't think of the guy right now, but like had them walk out and do the rap as they're walking out. Sure. Prime's different. And there's been a couple, but like, when it goes, right? And that moment is gone now. Could they pull back into some Lil Baby stuff next year? Yeah, it might not have the same vibe. Maybe somebody comes and takes him from Kansas State after this crazy first year too. But I totally agree. I also think if you're Baby's team, and I don't know what record label he signed to, like, what are you doing? Like, even the thing he added to his story was just like, Lil Baby hits top 20.
Right. But I don't think he knew.
I don't know how he doesn't know, right? Like how many, I don't know. I'm not in that industry, right? But you got to think it comes across his radar. I mean, also, go ahead.
Well, I saw in the comments, a couple people said Kansas State effect, but like, honestly, I mean, look, I haven't gone on tour with any hip hop artists recently, but like, I don't, if he's not basketball, I mean, let's be honest, like it's Kansas State playing like FAU, like nobody, if you're not deep into college basketball, you're not really watching. It's CBS. To my point, it's kind of like CBS who's reposting this. No, so I could see how it like maybe wouldn't be there. And that's why I was like pushing the team to like, you got to make him see it, you know?
Agreed. But when it gets that big, because like that was everywhere. If you're a sports person, you see it. And the fact that this 2-year-old song jumped, that's where I'm like, yo,
Right.
he seems like a smart dude.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. He's got a pulse.
Yeah, it definitely has a pulse, right? Like pulse to the culture and whatnot.
Right.
And everyone knows March Madness. Like, you know, our sitter in the other room like does not watch sports, and she's like, "How are your athletes doing?" Like that kind of. Everyone follows it, right?
Plus, like, there's guys like you said, like Drake, Lil Wayne's all over it. He was
Yeah.
FaceTiming on his basketball teams. Like, there's people around where he's another guy who him and Drake, dude, they hover, they get it.
Yeah, they do.
And Baby could have done like a minimum do that, right? I don't know where he's at right now. He could be anywhere, but like acknowledge it. Like that becomes a big thing that you've acknowledged it. Like, yo, like this is my squad, or like he pulls on a purple shirt one day.
Totally. But that was my point to Kansas State, and I was actually texting with their assistant coach. Like I was like, and I literally reached out on the Nike side, like to my entertainment marketing people, my old friends. And I was like, yo, does Nike have a relationship with Baby? Like, we gotta, like, how do we make this happen? Like, we have to. And I didn't actually realize like their game was, I was texting him. I'm like, yo, I'm doing 3 things. And I sent him the like text, and I didn't realize like their game was that night, like 5 o'clock, you know? So, but at minimum, okay. So I was telling him that they need to customize jerseys and a locker plate for him and, you know, post that to the team account. And then, but I think they could have filmed a video and invited him, even if that's like something on the story or whatever. But like, I don't know. You just and I'm sympathetic to those content teams. I know they're trying to churn out an insane amount of content. They're jet lagged. They're sleep deprived. But these are the things. I mean, this is Nike. So you know, I've done a video on this, but like Nike is the things that make like Nike marketing at the moment are being able to capitalize on those short windows of time that are so few and far between. When you have like sport meets culture, and classically when you have a big sport moment is what we call them, you know, but basically just like a game that transcends the game itself into like pop culture. And that's then when you have to strike. And so that requires you have what, 12 hours, 24 hours, like the media cycle is so quick that you have to jump on it right then to do something. And, you know,
like you said too, it was, I mean, the game was that night. It's a 48-hour window in this case. Like you've only got, it comes out if they win that game, because it came out during the first game, right? I believe of the Sweet 16. If they win, then they got another game 48 hours later, and you got to figure out a way to pull something off. And I know it's tough, and maybe people tried somewhere on either side. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe.
But it would have been great to be able to pull that together. I still think they could do something. And you're so like basketball and hip hop are so intertwined culturally that something should happen. Who knows?
If I'm Kansas State football, I'm sweeping that. I'm taking that and I'm saying, let's just put them under the Kansas State wing and like, let's just roll with it. You know what I mean? And football takes over, Lil Baby.
They should. And what was really cool about Kansas State football, and you know, I follow a lot of their stuff and see it. We work with one of their coaches, and it's been stale, their football social creative account. But now football wise has been all over this basketball stuff. They're reenacting the best plays from basketball. They've been doing collabs posts with the football and basketball teams.
Love that.
Yeah, they've been doing some really cool stuff. So I don't know if they got somebody new or they're changing their vibe, but I love what they've been doing over the tournament and a little bit before. They were doing some new unique
stuff.
And
look at the way they're playing, football program, the way they make top 11.
I think they finished in 9, but
right. And then they're going, you know, Kansas State basketball almost went to the Final Four. Like they got some programs over there.
But you know what, Tim? My only challenge on the football thing is like you have to have the right coach, and that's why like Jerome Tang. I don't know what Kansas State's head coach is like, but the fact that the head coach is there, like just Bob, like he's like smooth with it, but like just awkward enough that it was like he wasn't trying to be something he wasn't. Like it was just like it just made it so perfect. And I feel like if you don't have the right coach who's not in that, you know, that it's not the same, you know. But whatever their baby thing is, let's figure out what their baby thing is, you know. So anyway.
I don't know if Chris Kleiman would be dancing like that as the football coach.
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The coaches do need to embrace the awkward though.
They do.
That always works.
And like you saw like Jim Larrañaga with the Miami, and like you see guys do that, but like he was like OG, kind of cool, kind of awkward with it, 50-something-year-old coach that like again totally fits when you got and you have the cool ass 20-year-olds. Like that vibe, it wasn't like you said, he wasn't trying to be something he wasn't. He was just being him and just feeling it, and it worked.
Totally.
Let's oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'll say, yeah, I don't want to take what we've been on 40 minutes or so. Well, I do want to talk about a couple of the other things that we discussed potentially talking about, but I like what you're sniffing with Coach Prime and Nike, and you think something's popping here. Do explain, sir.
Well, look, I'm a kid of the 80s and 90s, so Prime was on my wall. I had the Prime poster. So Dion, I love Dion. Always have. I love what he's doing. I know he's faltered at different times over his life, but I also think he's owned it and he's come around. I love what he's doing for young men. I love the swagger he brings to the program. I love that he's unapologetically him. So as a Nike guy, it always broke my heart to see him with Under Armour. And in fact, when I used to work at the Nike factory store, Prime would always come in. You know, he's lived in Dallas ever since he played for the Cowboys, and has been around for a long time. Has always had a big house here, and I think he still does. And so it just bummed me out to see when he went to Under Armour. Totally understand why he did. Under Armour was on the rise. They came in, they grabbed him up, and they did a lot of good things for him. I think as Under Armour has continued to falter at almost every step since they had the world they had the world by the balls about 7 years ago, and then they just completely have. It will be a business school case study sometime. Maybe they'll get it back, but like my whole job at Nike at one point was basically like my leaders were just terrified of Under Armour, and I got to do all kinds of amazing things because they were so afraid of Under Armour that I got to land helicopters on football fields and drive Lamborghinis all over the place just to do anything to try to make Nike cooler than Under Armour. And I think we did, but you know, so I think Prime is on his way back. He always, if you pay attention to these things, not many people are like brand psychos like I am. I pay attention to almost every brand that people are wearing and their shoes and footwear. It's just something I've always done since I was a kid. You know, he's been very strategic at times. A lot of people were in my comments on that TikTok going, oh, well, that's just because Colorado's a Nike school. What's he going to do? Guess bro, Prime has creative ways to not wear Nike at a Nike school. He can wear the little 47 brand, or there's all kinds of little places he can do it. And he has slowly but surely been acclimating more and more. A lot of people pointed out to me that I was unaware of that on the YouTube channel, he's been trying on Nikes, and they did a whole thing for like Dion wearing Nikes for the first time in 10 years. Their equipment manager is actually a former Nike running rep. So he's really tied in, I think, with the Nike sports marketing team. And so it seems like it's going to happen. If nothing else, he's in a neutral position now, which means he's sort of embracing it. He's wearing Nike apparel. He's wearing Nike shoes. So that's progress. And then I think they'll be able to figure something out to where they can retro his like DT Maxes. They just did that cleat last year for Oregon and for Kyler Murray. So they have to do it for Colorado, and it's a layup because the original colorway is white, black, and yellow. So they could do this for Colorado easily. Prime is going to want all the swagger from Nike and the uniforms. It's big for recruiting. So I see it happening personally.
Interesting. So two thoughts. I love he's got the We Comin' Nike. Yeah. I love that. I saw that recently. He was rocking that. And I assume in his contract, he's got a Nike stipend, just like every head coach does at their school. So go ahead.
Yeah. He has a lifetime. I'm not sure if this is so there's a really nerdy thing, but he has like a lifetime Nike thing. I can't remember if they finally cut that off or not, but he was with Under Armour and I was working at the Nike factory store.
Okay.
And like he would come in with his family and just like go ham in the store, deck dripped in Under Armour, and would like go ham at the Nike store and use his like credit or whatever, because some of those real legacy athletes, like there's very few, but like Dion, King Griffey Jr., Jerry Rice, Bo Jackson, they have like, I think a certain allotment like for a long time. So he may still have that Nike stuff, you know. sorry, this is a very technical thing. I don't know whether he accepted that, primer or whatever. And then I also think it's important to remember that, the teams often are printing things just on top of a Nike blank, and
sure.
a lot of people will always be like, where can I get that? Nike made him this shirt. And like, well, no, Nike just made the blank and then they printed the "we come in" or whatever his latest phrase is, which they could probably sell 1 million of them if they would do it. But it's just him and the team who are making those a lot of times.
That's a good point on that end. But I do imagine he got some sort of Nike dollars.
Probably.
Every head coach in your contract, you're going to get a stipend for clothes, like X number of dollars. And then usually, especially at a place like that, he's going to get a nice chunk there dollar-wise. So I wonder how that went. Also, we talk about people doing great stuff on social. There's nobody better than showcasing their coach and what they're doing process-wise than him. I don't love everything he says. I don't love everything he does, but I love how they're showcasing it all. Also, another side note, it's my daughter's birthday and my mother-in-law's birthday, and we're going to go to Denver over the spring game time. I think I might go to the spring game. I
want a "we coming" shirt.
If they're there, I'll get one. I want to reach out. His son, I think, follows me on IG. I'm gonna hit him. I'd love to have an NIL combo there. I don't know what they're doing around any of that stuff, but I know the branding around Coach Prime has been great.
Do you think, Jordan, are you saying potentially?
I'll be right back. Tim, continue this.
Okay. Do you think that Nike is just going to pay Coach Prime the bag? He's an endorser. He's back type of thing. Or do you think that they really go dive in and create the Prime brand, like a Jordan, like a Brady at Under Armour, like that deep of a relationship, you think?
Good question. I don't think they're going to I don't think Nike's going to go in and build the Prime brand, like they would one of their signature athletes, like they did back in the 90s. But I think that they'll figure out a way to play nice where Nike serves Prime and Colorado more importantly. And I think, Coach Prime is a lot about Coach Prime, but he's also a lot about taking care of his players and making sure Colorado has that swagger and that factor. And that's what he's used his apparel and footwear deals to do in the past. So he used Under Armour to take over Jackson State and do all kinds of cool things for them. When he was doing Prime Academy or Truth Academy down here in Dallas, he would use that because it's the name of the game in recruiting is you got to have the right uniforms. You got to have the cool cleats, whatever the exclusive angle you can figure out. And so I think he's probably going to be most focused on how does Nike take care of his team.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to try to impede any of the progress that's there.
Interesting. But what a unique standpoint he's at right now where I don't know, what is he, upper 40s, 48, 47 or something? How many?
55.
Okay. Great. So how many people around that age has Nike really gone all in on that could really reach a large demo of 35 to 60-year-olds and, like Prime could, he's in a unique spot, I think.
I mean, that's a great point. I think Prime is incredibly unique, and he is an older athlete who still influences culture and youth in a way that very few do. You have MJ, but MJ is often not out there. It's MJ's mystique and lore that is still influencing. It's not Michael himself. You have, Ken Griffey Jr. I think you saw Griffey with the USA Baseball a couple of weeks ago, and all those guys are still kind of worshiping the kid. I think Bo Jackson, the 30 for 30, I think helped introduce him to a new generation. But again, Bo is antisocial. He lives in Alabama and bow hunts and doesn't want to be in front of anyone, but he still has that effect. And then lastly, I think actually people don't know this enough, but man, every football athlete that I worked with at Nike, when we talked about who their idols were or who they would want to hear from, it was Michael Vick. And so they all grew up just worshiping Michael Vick. Because I think, where maybe Prime was our posters on the wall, I think Michael Vick was their era. And so, total side note, I'm into criminal justice and redemption stories. And I think Michael Vick sometimes doesn't get enough credit for just owning what he did. He did his time. He came back. He didn't complain about it. He just owned up, and he's done everything right since then. I love it, man. I got to meet him a couple of times, and I was just like, that was a fun guy to meet and to congratulate and to, thank for the inspiration.
Yeah, you're right. Cause like Michael Vick was probably just beyond, like, obviously we know who Michael Vick is, we followed him a ton, but like, as far as like fandom, like, I think Michael Vick's probably closer to our age than,
Yeah.
I don't know, what is he, like 40? He's probably 45, right?
Yeah.
42. Yeah.
40, okay. So he's much closer to our age where we weren't like, worshiping that type of dude. But like, yeah, all like those generation, like, I feel like everyone has at that age, like the Michael Vicks, the primes, like you can come back and almost like renew like your career yourself of like, hey, I'm gonna be a coach, or like a lot of them do the analyst thing and stuff like, which is different. But like, I think Coach Prime is gonna open up that layer of like, hey, this is a whole new level.
Okay, I have two more. Allen Iverson. I think Allen Iverson has retroed his brand. Reebok's clinging to dear life to Allen Iverson. I think that's the only footwear they've ever sold outside of their CrossFit shoes in the last 20 years. But, and then I would say Penny Hardaway. Penny's gone to Memphis. He's much less, I think, brash as Dion, or like perhaps media savvy, perhaps, with like pulling the strings, but like he does have that mystique and that lore, and I think he pulls people, especially in the Memphis area. And maybe Shaq, but Shaq uses his personality for more to connect. I feel like Shaq connects with the older audience like us more than he does.
Been around, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, like we had talked about this because you've worked with this guy. Is like, I was asked by a cousin-in-law, if you guys could work with one person in the NFL, who would it be? And I said OBJ. I know you've done some stuff with him, and not because I think he's the best player in the league, not because I think he's gonna have a 12-year career, but if you talk cool factor right now, when he posts, I see it in 5 different IG stories, when I swipe over for 10 or whatever. Like, he's, to a lot of people, like that dude. And obviously, like, that can, he's done some decent business things, but like, that is just like a different level. That's like the Dion vibe, the Dion cool. Like, I wanted to be 21. I'm 39. I want to be 21. That was my number. Someone at Matt Stillman, who's now a brother-in-law, had 21. Who was a year older than me. I couldn't take it, so I went to 9. Who was Peter Warwick, a Florida State guy as well, receiver-wise. But like, OBJ is that dude for these young, especially football players.
Yeah, it's hard for me to talk about the Odell stuff, because I think Odell could be prime. Absolutely. I think you have once in a generation where athletes come along and can like influence an entire generation. And I think Odell is that. I was literally looking at a pro baseball player a couple of days ago. So just in the last couple of weeks, I've consumed more baseball than I have in the last 20 years. My son started playing baseball, and I'm working with a baseball athlete. And I saw this guy. Well, and my TikTok video that has gone the most viral happens to be on some in-store baseball signage. 500,000 people found it to be interesting, which is so wild to me. Filmed it in 90 seconds, just ridiculous. But and so one of those athletes actually that I saw came across IG. He's a mini Odell. He still has the Odell haircut. Like, he's just Odell. Oh, I saw a little golfer too, like, who was a mini Odell. Like, Odell started the haircut. Every kid in America had the haircut. He's really talented at his sport. But as I often talk to other athletes, like, I mean, no one would say that he's anything less than, I don't know, top 5 or 10 receivers in the league, especially at his top. Like, I don't know if he's the best receiver in the NFL, but he's certainly the most influential and marketable. He loves dancing. He's charismatic. He's loves kids. He likes, he's got
that I don't give a fuck kind of vibe.
My gosh.
Good looking. He's like, style wise, like, all the things.
We did this photo shoot with him in LA one time. I was telling a story, and this woman, like, you have hair and makeup who come up and get him ready for like a commercial. And this woman comes up and goes, he just like rolls in sweatpants or whatever. And we're getting ready. And she comes up and she goes, okay, I actually think I don't need to do anything to you.
Ah.
She's just like, she taps like a little bit of like, concealer or whatever to make it not so shiny on his forehead. And then she's like, that's it. Like his hair is so cool. Him just like rolling out of bed with his hair is way cooler. His skin is perfect. He's so charismatic. Like hair and makeup doesn't need to do anything. He just needs to show up on set, you know?
That's great.
He's that
But
dude.
I mean, what I've also seen, I mean, I would just say like, man, I worked really closely with him for 2 years, basically all over the world. And in that time, I just saw like, I would never wish fame on my worst enemy. I think he's handled it pretty well. But you just see like, and you guys work with athletes, like there's something that happens to humanity when you've like experienced a person through a screen, like they're not human or something. And so people just like, this guy, everywhere we go, people are just like, oh, Odell, you know, like they're, oh, hey, you know, like, and they're just like in his face. And I've literally never saw the guy turn down a picture or turn down an autograph. But it just gets to be a lot, you know, and like you think that this person is like your fan, but like, they're really just trying to like get this moment that they can sort of post on social media. And they don't necessarily love you as much as they love the idea that they can get a picture with you or, you know, and like, it's just weird, man, you know, like eating dinner with people and they interrupt and just all kinds of things. And again, nothing but credit to that guy. Like he always took a selfie with someone. He always, you know, signed an autograph, but it's very hard, you know, very hard.
Yeah, it is. And that's why it always bothered me when someone even ask somebody for a picture or like, just let them be. Like I had somebody close to me, Tim knows this story, I won't say who it is, but somebody close to me who like was with some uber famous person at some random workout class and they're like texting. I was like in our group chat. So like, let that person be. That's cool.
Yes. Let them go.
Yeah.
I have a video.
What would you say, Jordan?
Yeah.
Who would you to go to Pat's question or Pat's thought? Who would you, if you had one athlete to work with in the world, any sport, who would you pick?
Let me just piggyback off of what Pat said real quick.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to make a video on it, so I'm just gonna make the video right here.
Yeah,
If what I would tell to people is like, if you see someone that you love so much, whether it's an athlete, a celebrity, an actor, did you know that the best thing you could do for them if you love them that much is to leave them alone? Totally. If you see them in public, if you see them somewhere, and one of the best things that Nike drills into every employee, at least in marketing, when you're interfacing with athlete, you never ask an athlete for an autograph, a picture, a photo. It's nearly a fireable offense. We just treat athlete like at Nike World Headquarters is like Sports Center, where you literally like open the elevator and Maria Sharapova is there, or you're walking down the hallway. This is true. This is literal facts. Like my friends came in town from Dallas at multiple different times. I have family and like the elevator opened and Maria Sharapova is there. We were walking down the hallway and we bump into Drake and my friends who are working with Drake, and I'm just chatting with them. And then all of a sudden I'm like, what are you guys doing here? And then she's like points right there. And I'm like, oh, that's Drake. Hi, Drake. And it's like, it's just like, you say what's up. You don't like, I feel like there's this fine line, like just treat people like they're humans, like say what's up, but you don't like stop them down and ask for the photo, because if you ask for that one photo, everybody else around now sees like, well, who is this person? And then whether they knew it or not, they then now want to grab on. And so you've just ruined that person's day. Anyway, so if you love people, you see a celebrity, leave them alone. That's the best thing you could do for them.
Totally. I remember this. I was 17 and I remember I was that young because I was with the girl in high school I was dating. We were out to eat at some local, whatever, sports bar in Cleveland, Ohio. And Travis Hafner, who was one of the best players on the Cleveland Indians at the time, was out to eat, and some grown-ass man walks up for a picture, and he was like, sure. It couldn't even been a selfie either. They must have had like a whatever. This would have been a one or something.
Disposable
Camera.
Yeah, probably was.
Yeah.
And I was like, come on, bro. Like, you're a grown-ass man trying to take a picture with a grown-ass man. Let this guy eat dinner with his wife and kid. I think it was kids or whatever the hell was going on there. but like clearly it was an awkward moment, and that always stuck with me, my 16, 17-year-old self. Like, I don't ever want to be like that. Like, and now obviously working with athletes, like there's a fine line between like your athletes should do those things in the right places, right times. Like I loved it. We worked with De'Erica Hamby, who was on the Las Vegas Aces last year and went to a game, and she was the only one who sat there and took pictures and signed autographs for 15, 20 minutes after the game. The rest of the players ran in, and I'm not hating on them for doing that. Like, that's just what, you know, a lot of athletes will do. She's like picking up kids, taking a picture. Like, it was awesome. And I love that. And you feel that, right? And there's a time and a place for that. Out to eat with family, and I see him with his little kid, and it's like,
that's not it. Man, did you guys see, there's a baseball player who did that. I saved it because it's so genius, and the athletes that I worked with. There's a baseball player who every time a kid asks him for an autograph, he turns his hat and asks the kid to sign his autograph first.
Oh, I like it.
Today, he's rolling out an opening day or whatever with a hat signed by every kid who's asked him for an autograph.
What an idea.
That's cool.
I mean, and it's gone viral on, Twitter or whatever. And that is such a genius way to like connect with fans in just a very simple way.
Totally.
Tim, you asked me, okay, any athlete I could work with? I mean, dude, this is actually one of those questions where I feel very spoiled. Like, I feel like I've gotten to work with most. I got to work with Ja Morant. I got to work with Odell. I mean, I got to work with all the NFL guys, and they're amazing. I'm going to give you a really nerdy one. I'm obsessed with golf. I would really love to help some golfers like do cool social media, branding, storytelling, merch, ways to interact with their fans, ways to surprise and delight fans, like the baseball we just talked about. So I would love to work with someone like Rory, or even like Jordan Spieth, who's local, who has big opportunity, but just doesn't do anything, fun. Even like a Scotty Scheffler, also a Dallas guy. They just don't have, like, they don't share a lot. And I understand that, but like, I think there's a way to do the like Tom Bradyfication of social media. And granted, I think when he saw the value of social media, he built Shadow Lion, and Gilad and those guys over there at Shadow Lion do great work for him. And I think he's seen the power of social. And so I just wish more athletes could see how powerful social can be for your brand. So I would take on someone like a, seemingly boring sport like golf and try to make it fun and culturally relevant.
Good response. We actually just had a call earlier today with the LPGA, and similar conversation of like, look, these people are actually really fun, but everyone thinks golf is boring and it has to be like very buttoned up and blah, blah, blah. And we're trying to share these stories, and the same type of thing.
Totally. Yeah. And there's golf's in a big renaissance right now, like there's all these, but I did a piece I actually did a thing on Scotty Scheffler and TaylorMade a couple of days ago, and just was like, Pat was kind of taking a play out of your book, bro. Like, hey, if you're trying to do content, here's a great piece of content you can do. Now that Reels is making us be able to like green screen it, it's so much easier than having to save it and do all that.
Yeah.
And so, Scotty Scheffler didn't have to do anything. And shout out to the TaylorMade team for this. I sent them messages congratulating them. And Scotty Scheffler can predict within a half yard every one of the clubs in his bag, like to a laser. And it got like 1.5 million views. It's just, people find it just really interesting and like savant. Like, I think not enough athletes just straight lean into their sport and the crazy skill and talent that they have. They sometimes overthink it. So yeah, golf has some opportunity there.
Yeah. I mean, and golf is something that has not, like when Tiger came to golf, obviously changed golf, right? It became cool in a lot of different places.
Yeah.
We're not golfers. I did know 2 out of the 3 names you said. So that's good.
That's the point. No one knows outside of the game.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah. But like, in any sport, if you've got people, and we could talk about what leagues do. There's like WNBA, I think, does a not good job at all of promoting the athletes in a cool, fun way. I don't love what the UFC does at all. They do some good things. Both leagues do some good things, but like overarching, like golf, right? It should at least come. I'm on social all damn day. It should come in my purview somewhere. baseball was terrible 2 years ago and leading up to 2 years ago. Now they're starting to get like the, you know, a better, I wouldn't say the great by any means, but like definitely much better. Like where you can point to certain things that they wouldn't have done 2 years ago. Now this is like good and it's working. And totally. So like the leagues could do a better job as a whole. And then individuals, there's tons of opportunity for them in those leagues to drive it themselves too.
Don't get me started on the leagues. We don't have time.
We'll do leagues another day.
Yeah, we'll have to do a part 2 for leagues and all the opportunities they have.
Let's do that. Let's end it on this. Anything else to add, Tim, Jordan?
No, appreciate you coming out.
Yeah, appreciate you.
I love what you guys are doing, man. I mean, Tim, we need to be social media friends, but Pat, I send people your stuff all the time. I love what you do. I think you're helping people in a way that I haven't really figured out. Like I feel like a little higher, more philosophical. And I love like how tactical you are with people and like, do this. It's not that hard. Do this thing. Or if I were doing this, this is how I would do it a little bit better. It's so good. I send people your stuff all the time. So y'all keep up the great work. I love what you're doing.
I appreciate it. And that's exactly how I described you to Tim was like, you know, I like talk about shit on like every day. Like, here's the thing you can do. Here's the thing you can do. Where you're like more overarching. Yeah. And I try to, the reason I kind of went that route is like to be practical, like do a thing. Like, cause so often when we started having these combos, it was like, well, I don't know what to do. Well, like, all right, you can do that. Or you can do this one. Do it, your version of this. Like, that's an easy thing to do.
I think it's super helpful. And shoot, I learn stuff from it all the time because I'm trying to, you know, grow and create as well. So we all could use all the help we need.